I was working as a volunteer teacher in Nepal, and I was in Kathmandu. One day I took a holiday to leave the city and go out into the mountainside. I went about 40 minutes outside of the city and I was walking around the mountains. I just happened to run into this place on a hilltop that had one mud hut with pagoda roofs. Inside this odd-looking house was this man who I'd never seen the likes of before. It felt like I was in a storybook. And that was it. When I met him, I wanted to spend a lot of time with him because he looked happy. He had this joy that I had never really seen before. And I wanted to know why he was so constantly happy and what his secret was, because I wanted to feel that way too. I think one of the most important things I learned from Kali Baba was that it's really important to let go of the past, especially the negativity of the past and of the moment, and just appreciate what you have right now can help to change your life. It will totally transform you if you just start to think about what you have instead of what you don't have. I really passionately wanted to see Muslim culture beyond the lens of Western media. I grew up in this world where I was told what Muslims were like and what they believed, and especially after September 11th. I decided I wanted to go and see for myself, because for me, experience is the best teacher. Looking at Afghanistan from the plane as I was landing on the runway, it looked very dry and barren. Then I walked in the airport, and the first Afghans I see are soldiers with guns who are there for security purposes at the airport. So it was very intimidating. I felt very uncomfortable at first. I didn't know how to behave as a woman in this very conservative society. I knew that I had to cover my head, so I had to adjust with my clothing with what I had. I mean, I didn't have much money, so I couldn't go out and buy stuff, but at least I had like long sleeve shirts. I worked with Afghan men in my office, and they treated me really well. They understood that I was not from Afghanistan, so they didn't expect me to behave like an Afghan woman. So that was really nice too. That was just a breath of fresh air. At first, when I was in Kabul, I was afraid to walk around by myself. I spent a lot of time with Afghan friends and international friends alike, walking around the city. So, you know, at first I was just like, I can't walk down the street by myself at all. And, you know, by month 3, I was walking around the markets, the bazaars, they call them. I was walking around the heart of Kabul all the time by myself. And I would say, hello, how are you, what's your name? Just very basic things. And even in the beginning, when I could only say about 5 sentences, I would go and say hello to the Afghans on the street if they didn't say hello to me first, which would happen a lot. And it wasn't just, hi, how are you doing? It was like, hello, how are you? What is your name? Where are you from? And many times within minutes, if it was a shop owner, the shop owner would take me into his or her store, and they would bring out tea. I would sit and talk with them as much as I possibly could. You know, sometimes there are language barriers. And then maybe like 20 minutes, half hour later, they would offer me food, and then if I stayed longer, I'd say, oh, come to my house, meet my family. After time would go on, I'd spend a whole afternoon in the houses, and many of them would say, you can come and stay here whenever you want. You stay here as long as you want, It's no problem, we'd love to have you. I can think of 15 different people in Kabul who have said that to me, and I know if I went there today, I'd have a place to stay. And I find this really amazing because they didn't know me very well, but they totally opened their hearts to me. And they knew I was American. My book is called Butterfly on the Road, and it's about my journey going to Afghanistan, but I start out with, you know, why I left this country, why did I want to travel like this, and how I studied with Kali Baba, who inspired me to go to Afghanistan. And it's about how I traveled the world like this with, you know, a shoestring budget and finding jobs when I could, and in those travels, you know, I'm going through this transformation from someone who didn't really believe the world was such a great place. And then I transformed into this person who is much more positive. And it's also about synchronicity and just the magic that can happen when you travel to so many places. My book is not published right now, and you know, I know that it'll be published when it's meant to be published. But if you want to know when it's going to be released, you can go to my blog, which is blog.lizgrover, that's G-R-O-V as in Victor, E-R.com. And if you look in the upper right hand of the screen, you'll see a place where you can get on the list to be alerted for when the book is released. When I'm doing things like this, I take a lot of time to observe my fears, but I just let them go because I don't want to let fear stop me. You don't really need much to be happy. Like, if you have shelter and if you have good food and good company, you're set.